So, Chris, we recently did an episode of Secular Spotlight about the heightened violence in Minneapolis by ICE raids that led to the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And we spoke to a Minneapolis representative, and it was a really good conversation. You can check that out on our channel if you want. But one thing we didn't talk about as much in that episode is the violence related to Christian nationalist authoritarianism. And we wrote a press release kind of connecting these dots. So can you help us connect those dots a little bit here?
Yeah, I mean, at first it's not obvious like what this really has to do with our work. But it is once you realize this is just a part of this growing sort of history of Christian nationalism in our government and messaging and things like that. So our federal regime is being increasingly shaped by Christian nationalist authoritarianism. There's a big religious backing to the ICE stuff we're seeing all across the country and in Minneapolis. You know, from the White House to the Department of Homeland Security, the Trump administration has been framing immigration enforcement as a divinely sanctioned mission.
Yeah, and we have proof for that. DHS has been putting out a lot of really strange videos, but one that especially caught our attention was one that was filled with Bible quotes, footage of a helicopter. We're just going to show it so you can see what we're talking about.
There's a Bible verse I think about sometimes, many times. It goes, "And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us?"
Can roll on for a long time, roll on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
And I said, "Here am I. Send me."
They're using this quote from the Bible, presumably to justify the immigration crackdown somehow?
Yeah, they're using the Bible to say, I mean, which, you know, I'm not one to give credence to the Bible, but my understanding is it was sort of pro-immigrants. It's just from what I've heard. Basically, the video wants to dehumanize immigrants and protesters, excuse brutality and undermine constitutional limits on power by saying, we're fighting for God. You know, similarly, Trump boasted that God approves of his presidency and his immigration policies.
Last year, you told me that you believe that the reason you won the election is because God put you in this place so that you could save the world. Looking back 1 year, do you feel like God is proud of the effort that you've put in?
I do, actually. I think God is very proud of the job I've done, and that includes for religion.
But he also said he doesn't think he's going to heaven recently. A lot of mixed messaging from Trump on his relationship with God. I guess what you're saying is there's a lot of accusations about immigrants and why ICE is cracking down. But at the same time, like you're saying, DHS has a lot of this religious messaging that seems to be driving a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, these are religious, like, DHS hype videos, so that's like what we're expecting. That's what these ICE officers who are terrorizing the communities, that's the type of stuff they're watching, you know, so they're basically seeing Bible verses, that military imagery, you know, people dropping from helicopters, intense action cutscenes and stuff to just kind of say like, hey, you're soldiers in a moral crusade rather than public servants bound by the Constitution. You know, this is what authoritarianism relies on, the sort of dehumanization, basically saying cruelty is a righteous and violence is a virtue. You know, like these are very like violent action-filled, you know, clips. This is not like videos of people patrolling a city and making sure everyone's safe. You know, it's like we're gonna drop in and take these bad guys out. And
this is a lot of language that Pete Hegseth also uses. So it's not just DHS, it's our own military.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we're kind of getting at, is that this is all throughout the administration. I think people don't immediately, when they hear about these deaths and everything that happened, you know, connect that to Christian nationalism. And so that's what we wanted to try to do here, is explain like, no, this is all a part of it. You know, this isn't a separate thing. They're not over here promoting Christian nationalism, violence, trying to, you know, enforce God's will, things like that over here. Oh, and then separately, oh no, they are terrorizing a community and shot people and have killed people. No, it's all one and the same.
And I don't think we're trying to say that Christian nationalism is the only reason why ICE is in Minneapolis. It's all part of the same stew. Some people argue that the increased ICE presence is a result of white supremacy, or it could be a way for Trump to distract from the Epstein files, which are being released, and his name is on that. So I'm curious, what do you think is the true intention behind this? Because, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you think the Christian nationalist element of it is the true motivation behind these immigration crackdowns, or do you think they're using it as a tool to get people on board with it?
I think it's just so infused in it as to be inseparable. We don't always say Christian nationalism. Sometimes we say white Christian nationalism,
right,
because there is a racial element to Christian nationalism as well. These Christian nationalists don't think, oh, we the Christians, as in us white Christians, and then we'll have immigrant Christians, and that's what we've seen in Minneapolis, and we don't talk about it much in here, but there's a lot of religious people fighting back against ICE, a lot of churches, a lot of Christians who are against these things. So it's not just about Christians and religion. White Christian nationalism is just a whole ideology that encompasses, and I think that's what is really leading here. And that's underscored by Kristi Noem's record. We've been following her for many years here, well before she was head of DHS. She's repeatedly claimed to be divinely called to office, has openly stated her biblical beliefs guide her governing decisions. On her first full day as governor of South Dakota, she sponsored an explicitly Christian worship service. She's promoted school prayer. She endorsed Trump's Muslim bans. She and has regularly dismissed the constitutional separation of church and state. And so that's the woman who is leading these ICE operations. So it's just very clear here that the Christian nationalism is playing a big part in the violence that we're seeing, and we just wanted to make that connection for people, especially for people who might, like I said, question and be like, oh, well, this is terrible, but what does immigration enforcement have to do with FFRF's work? And that's exactly what it is that the administration is infused with Christian nationalism, and all of that is inseparable. It all just bleeds together.
There was something that was said in our press release that I really liked, which is state violence becomes justified when people claim that God is on their side. I think that's why I personally think a lot of the Christian nationalism stuff is just a tool to get a lot of people on board and to not question what the powers that be want to do, and because they'll go through the craziest mental gymnastics to be okay with it because they're told that this is some sort of divine intervention. Yep,
and we've seen that a lot surrounding the Trump administration. Like I said, that's why Trump said, God approves of what I'm doing. So that when Christians hear that, they go,
well, I don't have to think about it anymore.
Good enough for me.
Yeah.
My name's Katie, and I'm an out-of-the-closet freethinker. I decided to shed religion because of its self-destructive tendencies. I witnessed firsthand the toll religion can take on your psyche as a Christian woman. I decided that I may never have been a believer. A sense of fear and community were really the only things holding me to my faith.